Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma, Day 5. Om Shri Sai Kanakambardharine Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who wears a golden ochre-colored robe. Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba wears an ochre robe and orange pitambar. Sannyasis also wear orange garb, but there is a difference here. The sannyasis wear orange clothes as a sign of renunciation of worldly life. About himself wearing the orange robe, Sri Sathya Sai says, "It is only to remove the kashaya, evil feeling and bitterness, from the minds of the people. I wear this kashaya." When Swami was a child, his grandfather, Sri Kondamaraju, would visit the district place and get colorful pieces of apparel for all his grandchildren. On his return, all the children would rush to select their favorite colors, but little Satya used to prefer to be the last one to take his pick. He got more joy in his siblings' happiness. In 1940, after the declaration of his avatarhood, Swami started wearing a white robe, right until 1946. When the Kuppam family came to Puttaparthi for the Navaratri celebrations in 1946, Srimati Radhamma got colored silken robes for Swami. Swami accepted her loving offering and wore robes of different colors for the Navaratri festival. Since then, he started wearing the ochre robe. In those days, the crowds around Swami were thin, and Swami used to tell the devotees, "Today you get to meet me, talk to me easily, but a day will come when you will see me from a very long distance, only as an orange dot." He also mentioned this in the letter to his brother, Sri Seshamaraju, in May 1947. Here is an incident from the old times, which is very enlightening. Once, a lady who called herself a devotee thought that she should get an orange robe stitched for Swami. Just to fulfill her wish, Swami asked her to get him a robe. She rushed to get it stitched and offered it to Swami. But by this time, there was a change in her attitude. Ego replaced the joyful state. "Swami asked me to get him a robe. He will wear it." This egoistic thought kept surfacing in her mind. In that frame of mind, she went all over Puttaparthi and started telling everyone about it. On her return to the mandir, she witnessed a startling scene. The robe offered by her was shredded into festoons and hung all over. As she had started speaking to others with an egoistic attitude, Swami had asked for a pair of scissors to have the robe cut up into festoons and put all over. The lady understood her mistake and also realized that Swami had asked for the robe only to fulfill her wish. She fell at his feet and asked for pardon. Here is a sweet story with reference to Mother Ishwaramma. Once, Swami was at Dharmakshetra, Mumbai, and was to leave for Pandharpur. Mother Ishwaramma and a few devotees were with him. Swami asked Mother Ishwaramma, "Why don't all of you go and do some sightseeing in Mumbai?" In playful anger she exclaimed, "One needs money for that, isn't it? If you give us some, we will be able to go." Swami tugged on the side seams of the robe, and showing her that the robe did not have any pockets, he said, "Does this have pockets? From where can I give you the money?" On hearing the dialogue between the mother and son, everyone burst into laughter. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Adbhuta Charyaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, whose deeds are amazing. Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba is God incarnate, and the 7 qualities of prosperity, glory, knowledge, non-attachment, creation, sustenance, and dissolution are present in him. Just by his divine will, he performs many wondrous miracles. Years ago, once, he was sitting on the sands of the Chitravati with some devotees. He started drawing something with his fingers on the sands. Someone asked, "Swami, what are you drawing?" He smiled softly and said, "Soon a new mandir will be constructed. This is the plan of that mandir. From now on, not from India alone, but thousands of devotees from all over the world will come here. Lakhs of people will come. Puttaparthi will become a very famous pilgrim center." Some of the people who heard it at that time had some doubts, but today every word that Swami has said has turned into reality. Swami has established temples of knowledge, temples of healing, and has provided drinking water through the water projects to thousands of people, all as a part of his glorious mission. The Chaitanya Jyoti Museum, Purna Chandra and Sai Kulwant Halls, Hillview Stadium, the beautifully carved idols, the planetarium, the university, aren't all these wondrous creations? Bhagwan Baba has also cured many devotees of serious ailments. He has given rebirth to the dead. While being at one place in his physical body, he travels to any part of the world in his subtle form to rescue his devotees from calamities. Let us ponder over one such wondrous deed of Swami. Once, while in Brindavan ashram, Swami said to one of his devotees, Dr. Gadia, "Yesterday I had gone to Kampala to save your parents from a car accident." Kampala is a town in Africa, and Dr. Gadia's parents, who were residing there, met with a serious car accident. The car was crushed beyond repair, but both of them survived unhurt. This became possible only due to Swami's grace. And while doing so, Swami's physical form was at Brindavan Ashram in Bangalore. Whatever Swami told Dr. Gadia was later confirmed by his family at Kampala. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Apad Bandhavaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who in our calamities comes to our help like a close relative. When calamity strikes, Bhagwan Baba takes care of us, even more than a close relative would. So for all his devotees, he is Apad Bandhava. Those who have total faith in God surrender themselves completely to him. According to their past karma, they have to encounter calamities, but at that time, God rushes to help and rescue them. Here is a story to illustrate this. A devotee of Swami named Mr. Kulkarni lived in Bangalore. In July 1964, while performing puja in his worship room, he felt giddy and fainted. Mrs. Kulkarni and a servant were in the house at the time. The servant ran to the neighbor, Mr. Rizbud, and informed him. Mr. Rizbud, along with another neighbor, rushed to Mr. Kulkarni's house. They saw Mr. Kulkarni lying flat on the floor, so the two of them lifted him and put him on a bed. In doing so, they realized that his left side of the body was paralyzed. Mr. Rizbud rushed to call the doctor. When Mr. Rizbud returned with the doctor, he saw Mrs. Kulkarni sitting in the puja room. She was very calm and was engrossed in her prayers. Suddenly, everyone noticed that vibhuti started falling from Swami's photograph. The doctor meanwhile diagnosed paralysis and started the treatment. The vibhuti shower came continuously for 4 days. After 4 days it stopped, but by then Mr. Kulkarni was out of danger, and within 2 months returned back to normal. What one understands from this story is Mrs. Kulkarni's total faith in Swami. She had completely surrendered to him. Through the vibhuti, Swami showed his divine presence and pulled Mr. Kulkarni out of danger and cured him completely. Mr. Kulkarni's neighbor, Mr. Rizbud, had a son who was undergoing some training in Mumbai. In order to come home to Bangalore, he took leave for a few days. Before reaching Bangalore, he got off the train at Dharmavaram station and came to Puttaparthi. He took Swami's darshan and blessings and left for Dharmavaram in order to reach Bangalore. As he reached the station, the police stopped him and started asking a lot of questions. This was during the Indo-China War, and the police were extra vigilant. Although they made a detailed inquiry, this young man was not afraid. Calmly, he took Swami's photo out of his pocket, showed it to the police, and told them that he had gone for Swami's darshan and was returning to his hometown. The moment they heard this, they let him go, and his onward journey to Bangalore was uneventful and safe. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Prematmane Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, whose inner reality is only love. Swami says, I am pure love. I only give bliss, and through this bliss you get love. Innumerable devotees the world over have experienced Swami's love. It has also been scientifically proved that he constantly showers love. In July 1976, a scientist named Dr. Frank Baranowski photographed Swami with a Kirlian camera. This is a special camera which can capture the aura that surrounds human beings. Dr. Baranowski had conducted a lot of research on this topic and had photographed many people from different fields and stratas of society in order to study their auras. When he observed Swami's photograph, he was stunned because he had never ever come across such an aura, which was white, blue, and pink in color, with streaks of gold and silver. These colors represent pure concentrated love. Here is a story about Swami's pure love for his devotees. In 1966, a couple from a middle-class background went to Prashanti Nilayam for Swami's darshan. Swami showered his grace and called them for an interview. During the interview, he told the lady, "Even if you haven't told anybody the real reason for your sorrow, I know about it. Your husband thinks you are sad because of the financial constraints, but that is not true. You are sad because you are worried about your brother. You call me your mother, father, guru, brother, and friend, isn't it? Then why do you worry? From now on you will be free of worry. Go home happily." They returned home happy, with Swami's blessings. They had a big surprise awaiting them. The reason was very unusual. This lady's brother had participated in the 1942 freedom struggle. He had got injured badly in the police lathi charge. He had been struck on his head and had fallen unconscious. When he regained consciousness, he had suffered from loss of memory. The lady was worried about the brother's condition and was especially concerned about his well-being after she would pass away. But Sai, who is the embodiment of love, gave her the assurance and removed her worry. When the couple returned home, the brother was standing in the doorway awaiting their arrival. After a long span of 24 years, he had recovered miraculously and was a normal man. This was a gift from Prema Swarupa Sai. Sant Tukaram says, "Love is a gift from God. It removes body consciousness and unites us with God." Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Prema Murtaye Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who is the embodiment of love. Swami says, "Love is my form." Prema Swarupa Sai showers unconditional love on everybody with his gracious glances. During the Shirdi incarnation, many were recipients of Sainath's anger. However, deep below, the anger was only love for the devotees. In the Parthi incarnation, Sri Sathya Sai only showers love and does not get angry with anybody. Once, when someone asked Swami about this, he said, "When a mother is cooking, if her child comes in the way, she gets angry. But when she is serving food, she feeds the same child very lovingly, so that the child is satiated." Here is the story about Prema Swarup Sai's grace. Some years ago, the students of Puttaparthi school were seated for Swami's darshan. After his round in the darshan hall, Swami reached the veranda. He stopped for a moment and turned back. He came to the rows where the children were seated, stood in front of a child, and stared at him. In a stern voice, Swami asked the child, "Can't you go to the doctor?" Why did Swami get annoyed with the child? The boy had mumps. Since the past 2 days, his cheeks were swollen, and he was wincing in pain. When Swami asked this question, the child replied in innocence, "Swami, when you are everything to me, why should I go to the doctor?" Swami burst out laughing. He gently patted the child on his back and went away. Next day, everyone who saw the child was surprised because he looked completely normal. The swelling on his cheeks was gone, and there was no pain. But when Swami came for his round of darshan, everyone saw the swelling on his cheeks. "That innocent child put his burden on me with so much faith. How can I let him down? I had to free him from pain. Sant Tukaram says, wherever Hari's name is chanted, love dwells there. Love comes from God in search of his devotees. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Prema Pradaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who bestows love on all. Swami says, I don't want anything from you. If you want to give me something, only give me your love. When a pure heart overflowing with love is offered to me, my hand comes forth to receive it. Otherwise, it only keeps giving all the time. It never receives. Swami also says, love is God and God is love. The real measure of an individual's spiritual progress is divine love. We receive it directly from God. If we practice see good, be good, do good constantly in our lives, we can become recipients of God's love. There are many ways by which we can help the needy and the underprivileged. If we are able to see God's image in them while serving them, we will be able to experience divine love. Here is a story about a doctor from Mumbai who became a recipient of Swami's love. In February 2002, the doctor had to go to Chennai to attend a wedding ceremony. A friend of his was also invited to the same wedding. So when the doctor asked the friend to come along, the friend put a condition that he would go along only if the doctor went to Puttaparthi on the way. The doctor agreed, and they both reached Prashanti Nilayam. They were seated in darshan, and Swami called them for an interview on the same day itself. They went inside the interview room along with some other devotees, and Swami offered a chair to the doctor's friend, saying, "Sit on the chair. You are unable to sit on the ground, isn't it?" The gentleman was surprised, because he had never met Swami earlier. As gifts of grace, Baba materialized a few things for some in the room. Then he turned to the doctor and said, "What do you want?" "Only your grace," the doctor replied. Swami smiled and inquired about his practice. The doctor said, "I don't charge any fees to poor patients, and I also give them free medicines." Swami seemed very satisfied with the answer. He blessed the doctor and said, "Shri Siddhivinayak is watching over you with his gracious glances." The doctor's dispensary is very close to the Shri Siddhivinayak Mandir in Mumbai. Next day in darshan, from a distance, Swami looked at the doctor very lovingly, raised his hand in blessing, and walked ahead. While walking, he gave some instructions to the Seva Dal volunteer. In a short while, the volunteer came up to the doctor, took him along with his friend to the Ganesh gate. A car was waiting there. The Seva Dal volunteer took them in the car to the super specialty hospital. According to Swami's instructions, they were taken to each and every department. The doctor was very touched. He felt very grateful for experiencing Swami's love and attention, which he realized was Bhagavan Baba's reward to him for his service to the needy. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Priyaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who is dear to all. God is very dear to all his devotees. The present Shri Sathya Sai avatar is very endearing to all those who worship his name and form, but at the same time he is dear to all others too. How come? The answer is provided by Swami himself. Swami says, "My life is my message." Every word and deed of his inspires his devotees. Every action of Bhagavan Baba reflects the work he has undertaken for the temporal and spiritual welfare of all mankind. As a child, he told Mother Ishwaramma, "I have come here to serve." And every word of this statement has been translated into action by this incarnation of God, who has come down to earth only to grant deliverance to the entire world. Bhagavan Baba had promised Mother Ishwaramma that he would provide education, medical aid, and drinking water to the people of Puttaparthi and the surrounding villages. As a fulfillment of that promise, huge institutions imparting quality education, super specialty hospitals, and mammoth drinking water projects, all free of cost, have been gifted by Swami to lakhs of people. Along with his devotees, others too are reaping the benefits of all these projects. This shows that Swami is Lokanath, and today his mission is spreading far and wide and is touching the life of each and every person. Here is an incident which narrates how Swami is endearing to all. A few years ago, a Sai devotee was traveling by train to Puttaparthi. In the train, he started talking to his co-passengers. He realized that the person sitting next to him was also going to Puttaparthi. The devotee started talking to him about Swami with a lot of enthusiasm. But there was a cold response from the co-traveler. He told the devotee, "I am not a Baba devotee like you. I am going there for treatment of my heart problem." The devotee gave him all the information about the hospital and the facilities available there. They reached Puttaparthi, the person went to the hospital, and the devotee came to Prashanti Nilayam. After 1 year, the devotee went back to Prashanti Nilayam for Guru Purnima. He had darshan and heard Swami's Guru Purnima discourse. As he was walking out of Sai Kulwant Hall, somebody patted him on his back. He turned around and saw an unknown person smiling at him. As the devotee was wondering who this person was, the person said, "Don't you recognize me? Last year we had traveled together in the railway compartment." The devotee remembered the incident and asked, "How is your health now?" The gentleman answered, "By Swami's grace I am fine. I got a new lease of life. Since today is Guru Purnima, I have come here with my family for the darshan of the Jagat Guru in order to seek his blessings." Just a year ago, this person was aloof and disinterested. How did he start talking about Swami with so much love and respect? How did this come about? It seems this person had been advised emergency heart surgery by the city doctors. After he got himself admitted at the super specialty hospital in Prashanti Nilayam, all the tests were conducted with the help of the latest state-of-the-art medical equipment. The doctors here told him that he did not need a surgery. Instead, he was advised medication, a strict diet, and daily practice of yoga. He had been following this routine regularly for 1 whole year, and was now in perfect health. While he was at the super specialty hospital, he heard about Swami's life, his mission, and his glory. Throughout the year, he, along with his family, read Sai literature, and all of them became very eager to take Swami's darshan. So now, on this auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima, they were here to seek darshan of Sai, who is endearing to all. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Bhakta Priyaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who is the beloved Lord of all devotees. All devotees love God and are devoted to Him. But who is a true devotee? The one whose devotion is accepted by God is a devotee. Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, "Yo me bhakta sa me priyaha." My devotee is very dear to me. So just as God is dear to his devotees, devotees are very dear to God too. Since his birth, Bhagavan Baba has been loved by one and all. The moment he was born on this earth, Ishwaramma, Subamma, and Lakshmamma were the first ones to have his darshan, and this divine babe was very endearing to them. As a small child, he was the favorite of his older sister, and she used to fulfill all his demands. As he grew a bit older, little Satya became dear to all the needy who came to his door to ask for food and clothes. Satyanarayana, who with his playmates started the Pandari Bhajan group in Puttaparthi, was popular not only amongst his friends, but also amongst the villagers of Puttaparthi and the surrounding villages. It was as if he had a magnetic pull. But after Bhagawan's advent on earth, the one whom we may truly call a devotee was Swami's grandfather, Sri Kondamaraju. He was Swami's first devotee because he realized Swami's divinity right from his birth. He knew that this was Satyabhama Sri Krishna, a fact alluded to by Devi Satyabhama to him in a dream. Due to the manifest divine qualities of Bala Satya, he used to call him Chinna Guru, young Guru. Later, Satya's playmates also made him their guru, and the villagers used to address him as Brahmagyani. Swami's glory began to spread in the nearby villages even prior to the declaration of his avatarhood. After the proclamation, the fragrance of his glory started spreading far and wide. People from faraway places started coming to Puttaparthi for fulfillment of their desires, and became devotees of their dear Bhagavan. Swami, who is dear to all his devotees, fulfills all their desires. The incident given here illustrates this. Swami was very dear to Subamma. He had promised her that he would pour water in her mouth in her last moment. But when she laid her mortal coil, he was not in Puttaparthi. Her dead body was kept for 2 days, but the effulgence on her face had not faded. Finally, Swami reached there after 2 days, and called out to her in a soft, sweet tone, "Subamma, I have come." And slowly Subamma opened her eyes. Swami held her hand in his, gave her vibhuti, and poured some water in her mouth. After partaking it, she passed away peacefully. The centenarian Sri Kondamaraju had just one desire. He wished that his dear Bhagavan should be by his side in his last moments. When he realized that the end was drawing near, he told Ishwaramma, "My end is drawing near." When Ishwaramma was about to give him the tulsi water, he stopped her, and Swami arrived there at that very moment. To fulfill his grandfather's last wish, he was about to pour the water in his mouth, when Kondamaraju stopped him and said, "Swami, please drink some water first, and then give the remaining water to me." Swami acceded to the request of this dear devotee, and after partaking the tirth given by Bhagavan, Sri Kondamaraju breathed his last. Swami, who is very dear to all his devotees, accepts their heartfelt prayers and grants them salvation. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Bhakta Mandaraya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who, like the divine Mandara tree in the heaven described in the Puranas, fulfills our sacred desires. On the completion of the sacred Dhyaneshwari, Sant Dhyaneshwar in his Pasayadan Prasad requested the Lord, "May the darkness of ignorance disappear. May the world see the light of righteousness. Let the auspicious desires of all living beings be fulfilled." This prayer of Sant Dhyaneshwar was accepted by God, and he incarnated on earth in Sai's form to fulfill the auspicious desires of all living beings in the world. Swami says, "Yoga means the acquisition of something desirable, and kshema means the preservation of what is thus acquired. The discipline by which you can preserve this is Ananya Chintan, exclusive meditation on the Lord, that will cleanse the mind, and it will make you into a bhakta." Swami also says, "A devotee is one who talks about God, sings about God, only sees God, spends all his time with God." Bhagavan Baba has incarnated on earth to fulfill the auspicious desires of his devotees, and to look after their welfare. He is like the Kalpataru, wish-fulfilling tree, to his devotees. When little Satya was in school, he used to put his hand inside the school bag and manifest peppermints, pencils, etc., and give them to his playmates. Later, from the tamarind tree on the hillside, he gave a lot of desired things to his devotees, and this tree came to be known as a wish-fulfilling tree. This was just an instrument. The real Kalpataru is Bhagavan Baba, who fulfills all the desires of his devotees. When Ishwaramma heard about the stories from the Shirdi incarnation, she realized that other than 3 to 4 villages near Shirdi, Sai had not visited any other place. So she asked Baba, "Swami, you are an incarnation of Shirdi Sai, and he did not go anywhere beyond Shirdi. Then why do you go everywhere?" The purpose of asking this question was verily because she could not bear separation from Swami for even a few moments. On hearing this, Swami laughed and replied, "How can I not go anywhere and stay in Puttaparthi alone? Wherever my devotees are, and by whichever name they may call me, I have to visit those places in order to bless them. I have to do this. This is why I have taken birth." Innumerable devotees of Swami have experienced the truth of this statement of his. Whoever calls out to him with a pure heart, he rushes there to help and save the devotee. Whether worldly or spiritual, he fulfills all the auspicious desires of all his devotees. As Sant Dhyaneshwar has said, Swami is verily an all-pervading paradise of fulfillment. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Bhakta Jana Hridaya Viharaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who sports and revels in the hearts of devotees. Sri Madhavacharya has said, "Devotion is love for God. Those who accept God to be their true friend and love Him wholeheartedly are devotees." In the sacred book Viveka Chudamani, it is declared, devotion is Swaswarupa Darshan, to realize one's higher self as God. And God likes to revel and sport in the hearts of such devotees. Lord Shri Krishna is the best example of the God who revels and sports in the hearts of the devotees. We all know about his Rasa Krida with the Gopikas of Gokul. During the Ras Krida, every Gopika used to feel that Shri Krishna was sporting with her alone. In spite of the fact that there were numerous Gopikas and just one Shri Krishna, this Leela would take place. And the only explanation is that the Lord used to revel and sport as the self in the pure heart of each Gopika. Once long ago, Swami was in the mood to sport with his devotees. There were a few devotees around him. He said to them, "Who will adorn me with a tulsi garland today, which will reach right up to my feet?" All the devotees rushed to the garden nearby and brought tulsi leaves. Each one estimated the length and started stringing the garland. To their surprise, Swami also started stringing one. When all the tulsi garlands were ready, Swami let each devotee garland him turn by turn, but none of the garlands reached up to his feet. The only garland which reached his feet was the one made by Swami himself. Everyone was overjoyed at this Leela. Then Swami collected all the garlands and rolled them into a ball. He asked everyone to form a circle and started throwing the ball at each one. Slowly, he increased the speed to such an extent that each one felt as if Swami was throwing the ball only at him. The bliss that Hridaya Vihari Swami gave all of them is quite beyond description. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Bhakta Jana Hridayalaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who makes the heart of the devotee a sacred abode for himself. Bhagavan Shri Krishna has declared, "I have installed myself in the heart of every living being." So God himself has chosen the heart as his abode. Swami says, "The spiritual heart is quite different from the physical heart, which of course is a vital organ of the body. In spiritual terms, the heart is eternal and unchanging. The one who realizes this principle attains all types of knowledge. Real freedom is contained in this realization." Here is a story from the Shirdi incarnation, which tells us how God is the indweller in the devotee's heart. Sri Dada Sahib Khaparde was an ardent devotee of Sainath. He used to visit Shirdi quite frequently. Once, Sainath kept Dada Sahib with him for a long time to protect him from being arrested by the police during the British Raj. Sri Madhavrao Deshpande was another ardent devotee of Sainath. He used to call Sainath Deva, and Sainath used to call him Shama. On 8th December 1911, Sri Dada Saheb Kaperde had a very unusual experience. He went to Madhav Rao's house and found Madhav Rao fast asleep. But every time he inhaled and exhaled, with each breath the sound Sainath Maharaj could be heard from his mouth. This sound was quite clear and could be heard from quite a distance. This shows that Madhav Rao had crossed the 4 steps of devotion: Samipata, closeness to God; Sarupata, to see God in all; Salokata, to concentrate on Him; and Sayujyata, to merge in God. Swami says, Bhakti, devotion, leads to Shakti, power, and Shakti leads to Yukti, skill. The Yukti helps you fix your Rakti, attachment, on the proper objects, and your Bhakti, thus promoted, finally results in Mukti, liberation. One day, Swami told a devotee, I will come to your house. The devotee got very excited and gave his address to Swami. Swami asked for the address once more. The devotee repeated it. Swami said, That is not your house. It is a rented place. Your body is your house, and I am ever present there. But due to illusion, you are unaware of it. Remove the Maya and experience my presence. Every purified heart is a Prashanti Nilayam, and Bhagavan Baba dwells there in all his glory. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Bhakta Paradhinaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who is bound by the devotion of his devotees. Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Pujyeshva Anurago Bhaktiti. The love towards those who are worthy of worship is devotion. Bhagavan Baba says, there are 2 types of bhakti. One is Sahaja Bhakti and the other is Vishesha Bhakti. Sahaja Bhakti is satisfied with worship, bhajan, namsmaran, vrata, pilgrimage, etc. Vishesha Bhakti craves for purity of character, suppression of impulses, practice of compassion, love, peace, non-violence, and enquiry. While treading the path of devotion, the Navavidha Bhakti, or the 9 forms of adoration are Shravanam, to listen to God's glory; Kirtanam, to sing God's glory; Vishnu Smaranam, to chant God's name; Padasevanam, to worship God's lotus feet; Vandanam, to bow down to God; Archanam, to offer worship to God; Dasyam, to serve God; Sneham, to love God as a friend; and Atma Nivedanam, totally surrender to God. Atma Nivedanam is the ultimate form, because God gets bound by the devotion of a devotee who has completely surrendered to Him. We find innumerable examples of Bhakta Paradhinata. To name a few, Sri Krishna ate the parched rice offered to him by his poor friend Sudama. He ate granules of rice at Vidura's place, and weaved cloth for Kabir. Lord Vithala washed clothes for Janabai, and served Sant Eknath as a servant named Sri Khandya. When Swami was residing at the old mandir, there was an aged lady devotee named Sakamma. She could not bear separation from him. She was very concerned that Swami should have his meals on time. She would fear that his health could get affected if he went out in the bright afternoon sun. Consequently, she would follow him wherever he went. But it was impossible for her to bind this mischievous god to one place. Whenever Swami was missing, she would go all over the village in search of him, walking with the support of a stick. Finally, after getting tired, she would return, only to find Swami resting in his room. On seeing him taking rest, she used to feel at ease. Baba used to pretend that he was resting only to please Sakamma. The moment she turned her back, he would vanish someplace. During the same time, there was another lady devotee named Yadalam Subbamma, who used to come for Swami's darshan. In those days, the journey was not easy. She used to come there by taking any means of transport that was available, and would bring moong dal dosas and chutney for Swami. The dosas were prepared in the morning. The moment he saw her, Swami would ask for the bag, and would happily partake of the cold dosas and chutney, and Yadalam Subamma used to ride on waves of bliss. Many others used to bring several sweet delicacies, but Swami used to ignore them, and prefer to have the cold dosa and chutney brought by his dear devotee. Isn't this the best example of how God is bound by the love of his devotee? Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Bhakti Jnana Pradipaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who kindles wisdom and devotion. Bhagavan Baba has shown us that the three paths that lead to liberation, work, worship, wisdom, are interrelated. Bhagavan says, "Let all your work be based on wisdom. Let your bhakti be permeated with humility, love, compassion, and non-violence." Karma is like a passenger train which moves slowly. When you mix bhakti with it, it picks up speed and moves like an express train. Karma and bhakti together develop the knowledge of the true self, and this enables you to start the journey towards your inner self. Here is a story from Sai Shirdi Incarnation. On March 4th, 1912, Mrs. Lakshmibai Kaparde, an ardent devotee of Sainath, went to Dwarka Mai in the afternoon with a food platter to offer Naivedyam. Usually, at noon Sainath did not give permission to ladies to enter Dwarka Mai, but he did not stop Lakshmibai, and even partook the Naivedyam lovingly. After the meal, Sainath took his seat and purposely stretched his legs. On seeing this, Lakshmibai was very happy, and she started massaging them. Everything seemed fine up to now, but later something unusual happened. Sainath held Lakshmibai's hands, which were massaging his legs, and started pressing them with his own hands. On seeing this, Madhavrao Deshpande remarked, "Deva, what a remarkable sight we are seeing! We are witnessing the actual expression of love between God and his devotee. This is wondrous." Sainath was very pleased with Lakshmibai's attitude of seva, and he whispered in her ear, "Keep chanting Raja Ram constantly." Sainath, who normally did not give a mantra to anybody, being pleased with Lakshmibai's devotion, lit the lamp of wisdom in her heart in order to guide her on the path to liberation. Here is a story from the life of the present Sri Sathya Sai Avatar. According to Hindu calendar, every 4 years there is an Adhik Mas, an additional month. This period, considered very auspicious because it is very dear to God, is also known as Purushottama Mas. There is a custom that during this month an Akhand Deep, lamp that burns continuously, is lit and kept burning in front of God's idol, and a lamp is also offered to him in the name of Purushottama. Once, a devotee of Swami was travelling to Puttaparthi for Bhagavan's darshan during this month. His wife gave him a silver lamp and asked him to offer her pranams and give it to Swami. The devotee went to Baba, offered him pranams, and took the lamp out to give it to him. Swami asked, "What is this?" The devotee replied, "This is a lamp offered to you by my wife on the occasion of Purushottam Mas." Swami accepted the lamp, but did not seem very pleased about it. He said, "Tell her there is no need for these external rituals. She has the eternal flame of devotion in her heart. Let her always keep that burning bright." The couple remembered this instruction always, and reverentially followed it throughout their lives. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Bhakti Jnana Pradaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who confers wisdom and devotion on us. Bhagavan Baba has said, Vedas declare there are 3 types of bhakti, Bhautika, Ekanta, and Ananya. Bhautika bhakti is connected with Jada, the physical. If one is immersed in meditation and idols, all the experiences arise out of body, mind, and intellect, and they are transient. The body has to perish one day, and so the experiences also perish. However, this type of bhakti is necessary for the first stage. Traveling on this path, we should slowly march towards the second stage of Ekanta bhakti. This bhakti means dedication to one idol or form, and experiencing mental vision of that one form exclusively in privacy. Ekanta bhakti is a subtle state achieved by effective control of the mind and experiencing oneself as Antaratma. In case of Ekanta bhakti, the mind is dissolved and is in a still state. One develops the feeling that God is everywhere and in every being. And lastly, bhakti without any other thought or feeling is Ananya bhakti. It is one-pointed devotion to God, involving total surrender. Swami also says, Bhakti is not a temporary state. It is an unbroken contemplation of God without any interposing thought or feeling, a sadhana to be undertaken constantly. Earlier, during Guru Purnima and Vaikunta Ekadashi, Bhagavan Baba used to give Amrit, nectar, to his devotees. All the devotees used to sit in rows in a disciplined manner, and Swami used to move among them and give Amrit, which manifested from his divine lotus hands. After the devotees, it was given to the Sevadal volunteers. One year, after distributing Amrit to everyone, Swami was leaving for his residence on the first floor. A lady devotee named Sharadamma came up to him. She was blessed with darshan and nearness to both Shirdi and Partisai, and said, Swami, I did not get Amrit. Shall I sit here? He gave her permission to sit. Baba put a drop of nectar in her mouth, with the silver spoon from the vessel in his hand. But she said, Swami, not even a drop has entered the mouth. Baba said, Second chance, and he stirred the spoon in the silver vessel thrice, and in no time the entire vessel was filled with Amrit. Swami put some in her mouth, and then gave it to all the students. The same Sharadamma once asked Baba, Swami, it is said that one attains immortality on partaking nectar, but I have seen several people who have passed away, in spite of partaking Amrit given by you. Why is it so? Swami replied, I do not give Amrit to grant physical immortality. I give it to bestow wisdom, health, devotion, and good qualities. Bhagavan Baba bestows devotion and knowledge upon us. Let us pray at his lotus feet that we may have the ability to accept this grace. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Sujnana Margadarshakaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who shows the path of attaining the right knowledge. Swami says, the knowledge that comes from the intellect is gained through the combination of the senses and the mind, but the enlightening knowledge from Atman is absolute, real, and grants liberation. Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba is our Sadguru and leads us on the path to highest wisdom. He is a Loka Guru, Guru of masses, and also a Vyakti Guru, Guru for individuals. As a part of his avataric mission, he has started a magazine called Sanatana Sarati. Through this magazine, Bhagavan Baba guides the sadhaks. The devotees are able to gain insight into right knowledge through his divine discourses, which are published in this magazine. In addition to this, when Bhagavan Baba calls devotees for interviews, he gives them instruction through various examples and short stories. He also individually guides them, solves their problems, and brings about transformation in their personalities. There is a well-known story about a naked sadhu of Puttaparthi. This sadhu observed silence and being lame, went around in a palanquin, completely naked. At that time, around the year 1941, Swami was staying at Subbamma and Karnam's house. When the palanquin was brought in front of their house, everyone was very curious to see Swami's reaction. Bhagavan very calmly came out carrying a towel in his hand. He gave it to the sadhu and told him, Since you stay naked all the time, I assume that you have severed all your ties with society. Then why do you live in society? Why do you have disciples? If you are greedy for fame, why do you give the impression to others that you are desireless? On hearing this, the sadhu was ashamed. Swami continued, One who is engaged in namasmaran, God will never keep him hungry. Go to some place and stay in solitude. Wherever you are, I will provide you with food and shelter. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma.